Recording. If we are LPP's State of the Union citizens, what signages, notices can we put out notifying authorities that approach our front doors? It's actually a good question. It's a little fear-based. That kind of stuff really doesn't happen. And let me start with, we don't have members that have issues. So HISadvocates.org, HISadvocates.tv has been doing this. This is our 12th year and going on our 13th year. And we don't have any complaints. And we are not getting people in trouble. And we are showing people how to be above reproach. And this is how I'm going to answer you. So the reality is, jurisdiction lies more than just you and your own status. Your status is super important, don't get me wrong. But jurisdiction is also who owns that home. And I know that you, as a person who are worried about jurisdiction over your home or yourself primarily, you're wondering, what notices can I do? What can I do to protect myself? And that's a righteous question. It really is. It's a scared question because we don't have members that have those issues. They don't get door knocks. Okay. We're just left alone. And if you understand what we do with the active state, and you understand how we do the notices with our fee schedules, and wait on the next few weeks, we are lining up a launch on November 15th, I think it is. It's a Wednesday, I'm hoping. To which you are going to meet people I've known for about 10 years, and I've done other seminars and stuff, but I'm going to be introducing a couple guys, one of which is LAPD whistleblower. He's active duty. They're trying to fire him again for not wearing a mask, not getting vaccinated, and he passed with flying colors, his physicals, this, that, and the other, but he's got him boxed in because he knows to. He knows how. See, these guys are using the most powerful private side administrative process. And guess where? I honestly, when you come from, I'm a licensed real estate broker, and when you come from watching foreclosures on the private side, what do I mean by that? Non-judicial foreclosures. They don't need to go to a judge to get to steal your house here in California and many other states. And I'm thinking to myself, how do they do that? There's federal rules, there's procedures. You have to exhaust, it's called exhausting an administrative process, so that you can be privately defaulted, not on the public side, on the private side, where you're actually sending a notice of non-response with an opportunity to cure, and a notice of default. That is a private side summary judgment in a public side court, meaning you can take that into a public court and make the argument for a summary judgment right there. And so these guys who are experts at getting the law enforcement divisions of Southern California to realize they're committing multiple felonies, to move and to shake and to and I'm gonna save it because I want you to know just how powerful they are. But it's our administrative process that they are going to talk about. So when you're going through our administrative process on the living in the private, you're going to realize just how powerful a private side administrative process is. So we're going to show in HISadvocates, because we've perfected coming out. It's just one part of it. It's just, we got to perfect your mind. We got to change your mind. We got to help you to understand the power that you have. We also got to perfect enforcement. In the event of that door knock, in the event of those things that we really aren't getting right now, not to say that we're never going to get them, but right now we're not getting them. And so it's important to really start realizing, if it were me, and going back to your question, if it were me, I would remove the property from the county recorder, take the property out of their jurisdiction. Now, as a licensed real estate broker in the state of California, I'm not speaking with that license, but I'm speaking with that experience. I've done thousands of loan transactions as a corporation, hundreds and hundreds personally. I know title and real estate and recordation deeds as good or better than anybody. You can go and watch my advanced chain of title training video I did 7 or 8 years ago. It's 9 hours. But if you need foreclosure defense, that is your go-to video. But the bottom line is, when I'm talking jurisdiction, you're saying if we become state citizens, it's a little more like in our living in the private, we show you to stop receiving personal mail at your house. Why? Because that mailbox is granting jurisdiction over the land. We actually, through the living in a private program, can show you how to properly record a real deed, not one that's a legal description in your all caps name. They own that. They own the legal description, which is above land. It's not land. Where you are a joint tenant or tenant in common, where you are, you know what I'm saying? This is the trick. Remind me, Kristen, to talk about the recorder versus the register. But the trick is, they're holding two operations right there in the recorder's office and the register's office. And I'm going to explain that on my next question right now, because that's super, super important. So we show you how to do with a proper deed and remove that mailbox. And then even after you put the deed into the foundation name, and your fee simple, there are elements of what you can do to put it into a non-taxable event and completely pull it out of the county recorder, removing the deposit of that land from the county. And so, and I'm not saying that this is easy. I'm not going to say, I'm going to walk in the office, hand them a document and give me my receipt, and I'm going to go home and never get a tax bill. Wouldn't that be great? They don't want to, they're not training law enforcement that they're state citizens on the street. They just harass and deal with, court and getting their heads banged in later and getting sued and all those things. They don't realize what's going on. They don't want people to know. They're not even training law enforcement on state citizenship. They're training them on sovereign citizenship, which doesn't even exist or have a place in law. And so we have to just live above reproach. And we deal with things in a different form and fashion. So going back to your house, how did they get jurisdiction over the house? How did they get a warrant? How did they get an indictment? So here's what I'm going to suggest that you do. Go read a few of your friends or family, or go to the court record, review a warrant. Review a federal warrant, state warrant, review an indictment. What you're going to see is they have to outline how the United States or the state has jurisdiction over you. Now, I want to stop right there. Why is it that a government with omnipotent authority over you, absolute, no questions asked? Remember, they're training law enforcement. There's these people called sovereign citizens that they don't believe in federal rule or federal authority or state authority. Why is it that if it's just blanketed, it's absolute, do they need to prove subject, meaning me, matter, jurisdiction? That they have jurisdiction over me. Why? Because it's not just a blanket for everybody. Because there are people on this land that are outside of the United States. Do you know where the United States is? The District of Columbia, 9 UCC 307H. Where's the United States of America? Coast to coast. Are they the same? No. We're going to show you rulings in the next couple of weeks, Supreme Court rulings that are going to outline that for you. So when you ask that question about the house or about you as a state citizen, that's one level of Kevlar. Okay. It's actually a very strong, big, fat level of Kevlar. But the next level of Kevlar you're going to want to do, and this is why I said go read warrants and indictments. And then after you're done reading a warrant, you're going to see that it says the elements of how they gain jurisdiction. I saw such and such person at such and such property address checking their personal mail. I went down to the United States Postmaster. Such and such person receives personal mail at such and such address. I went down to the DMV. The DMV has such and such person with 2 motor vehicles registered at such and such address. What did they just do? 3 contract rule. You are contracted to the corporation 3 different ways using what's known as an office of the person, that birth certificate, UCC 9, registered organization, corporation, United States citizen, is the birth certificate. But you're holding that employment position. You got an employment ID number. You got all kinds of contracts that are tying you to it. You're receiving mail showing you're holding that office, literally. So I went, are you kidding me? That's what they're basing jurisdiction over men and women on across this nation, is the zip code and contract law, adhesion contract law. Yeah, it's exactly what they're doing. So we reverse engineered all that, and we structured up one program that's more than just granting jurisdiction. And me, with my experience, praise God, that I have experience in understanding titles and chain of custody and how to properly do title, and how God makes introductions, and that blows my mind. But me, with that experience, I know how to properly effect a recording and at the local county recorder's office, and not register a property. What did I just say? And not register a property, give it to them. Because that's where we're failing, for a lack of knowledge. So when it comes to removing jurisdiction over them, over you, you want to take it off the plate for your cars, your homes. You want to give that all to God. I'm going to show you how we do it. And once you give it all to God, you create new contracts through your foundation that we create for you, for your licenses, how you get paid, all the way down. And you now become a free man or woman without contract to the federal or state corporations, with full unalienable rights directly under God. And now the Constitution, it actually applies to you. You don't have constitutional rights. You have God-given unalienable rights. The Constitution is to restrain the federal and state governments. It's not for you. And that's why people argue, make argument for constitutional rights, and there are none. You just got to show where they're violating it. But you also got to show you're not a party to being a U.S. citizen, because I can, and I've proven this on house.gov, how they bracketed the amendments on, or the articles on the, the amendments on the Bill of Rights from the 11th on. And right there, posting it, they're showing everybody live what actually exists and actually doesn't exist for the corporation. That's why people think there's two constitutions, and there technically is, but all they did was take over as the corporation and do a new one, bracketed the first 10, and then everything else and on is unbracketed right there on house.gov. My point is, after reverse engineering, like they did with the UFOs or whatever, an indictment, a warrant, we've created an entire system to keep somebody free, being able to operate in the public, because private and public can mesh every single day. And in doing so, they now are free, without contract, without restraint, and not having to pay a single dime into the whore again. God bless that operation and HISAdvocates, because it's going to go big in the next 2 to 3 years. We all know it, between all the oppression, all the stuff going on, all the forced whatever, that's going to stop. So let me go on to address